Hey everybody, this is Tom again in Western North Carolina. I've been working on some more stuff on the shaving horse, and I'm going to show it to you right now and tell you some dimensions. And anyways, I've been working on all the kind of small parts that go into the backup head and the ratchet head, the seat cleat, the foot bar, things like that. Anyways, there's drilling gets done on all these, but first they need to be sawed out. And anyways, you know that we roughed out some pieces that were somewhere in the vicinity of 2.5 inches that are for the levers. The main part of that was for the levers, but also the backup head is made out of that, basically that same dimension wood. And one of the pieces for the backup head is the centerpiece of it. This piece is cut 8 1/4 inches long to flat. And that angle is 10 degrees. In the plans, I don't know what the plans say, but they might say 15. That's what I used to make it, 15. For a long time, I made it 9 degrees. And just recently, I changed it to 10 degrees. And the reason I did that is because there's a notch on my chop saw at 10 degrees. So I changed to 10. I didn't think it was that much different than 9. So this angle is 10 degrees. That's 8 1/4 long to flat. And the reason I cut it that length is I don't want this to stick out below the rail. Anyways, once you get that cut, you can sand this bottom end and chamfer these just a little bit. All right. Another thing you cut out of that same dimension wood is the little cheeks. And they go on the side of the head like that. And the dimension on them is 3 inches. 3 inches long to flat. And it's kind of nice that you cut these exactly the same size. Now when I cut these, I would cut them like this. See that? There's one over there and one over there. And anyways, the reason I do that is when I cut them like that, after I cut them, the grain looks like I want it to look. Now you might you might measure it like this. See, there's just an angle there, and this is a flat cut. If you do it like that, they will work fine. It's just that that grain doesn't match up. So anyways, I like my grain to match up. So those are 2 possibilities of how you would cut that. But anyways, you end up with 2 little blocks like this. And I'm going to show you the drilling in a minute. Another thing that you can be working on now is the foot bar. This is the piece that goes between the levers down near the bottom, near the floor. I know the length that I need to cut mine at, and I'll tell you it's 7 1/8 inch, but I don't think you guys should cut your length on this right now. You should wait until we get to this, putting the levers and everything together, because your shaving horse might be a different width than mine is, and this needs to be custom cut to your measurement. And I'll go over that with you when we get to that point. But anyways, this piece is basically 1.5 by 1.5, and you can make this. You should probably rough it out, 8 or 10 inches, something like that. Some people like to have a real long foot bar where it's also a place where you can push on your levers. You might make this as long as 16 inches. And we'll talk about that again when we go to assemble that lever assembly. but you can be getting this piece ready. Another piece is the cleat that goes on the bottom of the seat. I call it the seat cleat. This piece can be anywhere from around 1 3/4 inches to 2 inches, something like that. It's not important exactly what the dimension is here. This here, I don't know what I made this. This is about 2 1/8. It's actually a little bigger than I normally make them. Somewhere around 1 7/8 is I would like better. But anyways, this one is approximately 6 inches here, long to flat. And then I cut it at an angle like that. And then on my sander, I end up rounding it off like that. So you can be making one of those. Now there's some other pieces that we get out of the 3 1/2 inch stuff that we roughed out. And in fact, the one piece is the ratchet bar for the ratchet head. And I probably should have warned you earlier, but I always make this piece bigger than a 3 1/2. I make it 3 1/2, but I glue this piece on it so it ends up bigger than 3 1/2. And we're going to custom cut the width of this later on in the process. Now I glue on this piece of sassafras. It's not sassafras, it's sycamore. This is sycamore. Sycamore, it's got a real pretty grain on this particular piece. But anyway, sycamore is a wood that's very hard to split. And so I put a little piece of this sycamore on the front of here so that those notches don't just break out. If you don't have a piece of wood that you think is a wood that doesn't split easy, you just use what you have. And there's a possibility that you're never going to have a notch break out. But if you're making this thing yourself, if you have any trouble with that, you're just gonna have to know how to fix it. So anyways, that piece is 16 inches long, and just for now, it's roughed out, ready for the next step whenever I get to that, and I'll get to that. Another piece that comes out of the 3 1/2 is the backup spacer. It's 5 1/2 long to short, and this is 15 degrees, 15, just like the ends of the shaving horse and the leg angles. That goes in between the rails, back between the back legs. So that's 5 1/2 down here. And if you sand this piece, sand the end smooth, you don't want to chamfer this top. You want these edges to be sharp here at the top because they're going to mate up. Your rails are going to go right on here like this. You don't need any chamfer in that area. So another piece that you get out of the 3 1/2 is the cheeks for the ratchet head. They look like this. The measurement on these is 3 1/2, long to flat. And again, I cut these out in such a way that the grain matches up. It doesn't matter if the grain doesn't match up, but that's just how I do it. And no one's ever going to see this because this gets covered up later. But that's how I do it. And then another little piece is these two little pieces I showed you the other day when we were cutting out the seat. The saved pieces from the seat, and these are plywood, and they measure, that one's about 2 1/8 by 3, and they're the little pieces that go on the levers to hold the cleat. And I've got them rounded up here, bottoms are flat. And then you see the little countersink holes I've got drilled in them. I've countersunk these so that when I go to put these in, there's a place there's a place ready for me to place the screw to go in, and it's always at a kind of a strange angle, and by having it already countersunk, when that screw sinks in there, it doesn't tear up this plywood so bad. So that's how I do those. Now we're going to get into, I'm going to show you some drilling. I just turned my head to check the time, so we're doing all right. But on this seat cleat, what I do is I measure up right here 1 inch and 5/16 and make a mark. And I use this drill, this whatever this drill is, 25/64 drill that I showed you the other day. And it's a brad point drill, high quality one. But anyways, on this thing, what I do is I set my drill depth right to that mark. And when I do that countersink, whatever you want to call it, that counter bore, I just, on this particular one, I go right down to that mark. And that lets me, when I go to screw this on to my plywood seat, if I use a 2-inch screw, that screw does not come all the way through the plywood and poke out the other side. So anyways, I would drill this. And those holes are just kind of randomly spaced by eye. And it ends up looking like this when you get that done. On the little cheeks for the backup head, you need to find a particular spot on here, and that spot is centered this way. You know how to find the center. And the up and down measurement, is 1.5 inches. Right there, 1.5. And then centered this direction. Now you see that I put a little tick mark there and a little tick mark there. That's just to remind me how I want to drill the holes. Because these are going to go in right opposite each other. I don't want the screws bumping into each other, so I drill the holes offset. And the same thing with these back for the ratchet head. They got 3 screws each, and see how they're offset. They're not the same. But you don't have to measure those holes, just place them. Now when I drill these holes, when I do the countersink on these holes, I don't have any specific depth that I go to, but it's just somewhere around 1/4 inch, maybe 5/16, just to get that screw down in there out of sight. Okay, anyways, this hole in the middle, though, I drill it. I set my drill bit. I set my drill press. Called it a drill bit again, but I set my drill bit all the way down, almost touching the table. And so when I drill this middle hole, it does not come all the way through, but it's almost all the way through. And I have found that if you don't drill the holes all the way, if you do drill the holes all the way through, it gives you more trouble because you have to do something. If it splits out or anything, it's easier to wait until you get that glued to something and then finish that hole off or drive a screw. So anyways, after you get all these holes in all these things, after you get it counterbored with this drill bit, you take this drill out and you put in your little 5/32 bit, and it's just a regular twist bit drill. You put that in there, and then I'm going to raise my table up to there, and then I'm going to set this drill bit to just barely not touch the table. And I'm going to go around, and in all these holes, I'm going to go down and I'm going to drill with this little drill bit. And then all of these holes and all these holes. I'm going to drill them almost all the way through, but not all the way through. See, there's nothing on the back here, but it's drilled on the front. And I have just found that that is so much better to not go all the way through right now. When you go to run your screw in these, it'll go through, and it is better, in my opinion. So then you got all them drilled, and then the last step in this process right now is to countersink this middle hole with a little countersink. You go back and countersink that. And the reason I do that is because when you're assembling these shaving horses, you're going to be poking a bolt through multiple pieces, and that countersink is kind of like a funnel for that bolt to fit in. You know, you're going to be able to get a bolt in there easier than just a square hole like that. So that's why I countersink that. So anyways, I think that's all I really wanted to tell you guys today. It's all I've got set up. So the next thing that we're going to do after this is start to assemble that shaving horse. We haven't made the levers yet. I know we haven't made the levers yet, but because I'm not sure that your guys' shaving horses are going to be the exact same width as mine, I'm waiting to do the levers till last thing, and we'll already have our shaving horse mostly assembled. We'll have the legs on and stuff like that. And then we can figure out, I can tell you guys, show you guys how to figure out how long to make your foot bar the right length. Because it's important that this be the right length. If it's too long or too short, your levers aren't going to sit straight up and down how I want them to fit. Anyways, running kind of long on this. But I hope you're having a good day out there. I'm having a great day here. And I am very thankful for what I have. And I hope you can be thankful for what you have. So I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.